Nammo Phat. Good morning. Thank you for joining me for today's daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The second wonderful precept. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I vow to cultivate loving kindness and learn ways to work for the well-being of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I will practice generosity by sharing my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in real need. I am determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. I will respect the property of others, but I will prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other species on earth. This morning we're beginning a new book, The Karma of Questions by Ajahn Thanissaro, and we'll be beginning the chapter, Life Isn't Just Suffering. He showed me the brightness of the world. That's how my teacher, Ajahn Fuang, once characterized his debt to his teacher, Ajahn Lee. His words took me by surprise. I'd only recently come to study with him, still fresh from a school where I had learned that serious Buddhists took a negative, pessimistic view of the world. Yet here was a man who had given his life to the practice of the Buddha's teachings, speaking of the world's brightness. Of course, by brightness he wasn't referring to the joys of the arts, food, travel, sports, family life, or any of the other sections of the Sunday newspaper. He was talking about a deeper happiness that comes from within. As I came to know him, I gained a sense of how deeply happy he was. He may have been skeptical about a lot of human pretenses, but I would never describe him as negative or pessimistic. Realistic would be closer to the truth. Yet for a long time I couldn't shake the sense of paradox I felt over how the pessimism of the Buddhist texts could find embodiment in such a solidly happy person. Only when I began to look directly at the early texts did I realize that what I thought was a paradox was actually an irony. The irony of how Buddhism, which gives such a positive view of a human being's potential for finding true happiness, could be branded in the West as negative and pessimistic. You've probably heard the rumor that life is suffering is Buddhism's first principle, the Buddha's first noble truth. It's a rumor with good credentials spread by well-respected academics and Dharma teachers alike, but a rumor nonetheless. The truth about the Noble Truths is far more interesting. The Buddha taught 4 truths, not one, about life. There is suffering. There is a cause for suffering. There is an end of suffering. And there is a path of practice that puts an end to suffering. These truths taken as a whole are far from pessimistic. They're practical, problem-solving approach, the way a doctor approaches an illness or a mechanic a faulty engine. You identify a problem and look for its cause. You then put an end to the problem by eliminating the cause. What's special about the Buddha's teaching, Buddha's approach, is that the problem he attacks is the whole of human suffering, and the solution he offers is something human beings can do for themselves. Just as a doctor with a surefire cure for measles isn't afraid of measles, the Buddha isn't afraid of any aspect of human suffering. And having experienced a happiness totally unconditional, he's not afraid to point out the suffering and stress inherent in places where most of us would rather not see it, in the conditioned pleasures we cling to. He teaches us not to deny that suffering and stress, or to run away from it, but to stand still and face up to it, to examine it carefully. That way, by understanding it, we can ferret out its cause and put an end to it. Totally. How confident can you get? May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu. 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 Thank you for joining me this morning.